and welcome. I'm Pallavi Ghosh to another edition of One Take, and this time round I'm just reading out something which has come to us by way of government, and this is the entire controversy and the strategy with the matters in courts on same-sex marriage. What government sources are telling us is the government stand: marriage between a biological man and a biological woman is accepted socially. Any recognized deviation of this human relationship can occur only before the competent legislature. While a marriage may be between two private individuals having a profound impact on their private lives, it cannot be relegated to merely a concept within the domain of privacy of an individual when the question has legal consequences and ramifications. The government has now taken this stand as far as what many would consider and some would consider to be progressive legislation, which is same-sex marriages being recognized, while some would argue that this is against our cultural norms. So the larger question, and I'm asking is, and I'm going to trace back to just a few examples in political history in recent times of so-called progressive legislations which were initially so contentious that political parties were often hesitant to take a line on them, especially governments also, only because they did not want to hurt the sentiments of some of the members of the social fabric. You'll understand it better when I try giving you those examples. Let's go back first to 1980s. If you remember the famous Shahbano case. Now, the Shahbano case is essentially a plea which was taken by this Muslim woman who was divorced, Shahbano, and she was asking for more maintenance money from her husband after divorce, on the grounds that she was not able to sustain herself, she was not a bread earner, and therefore her husband owed her money. Now what happened after that? What happened is that a section of the Muslim hardliners argued that this is against the norms. This is not going to be accepted, this cannot be allowed, because divorce ke baad she cannot make any kind of a demand. Rajiv Gandhi was the Prime Minister at that point of time, and Rajiv Gandhi actually came under pressure from these Muslim hardliners and did not agree with her when he and his government took a stand that we cannot provide a maintenance. If you remember the case of Arif Muhammad Khan, he quit the Rajiv Gandhi government on the grounds that this is not fair, this is anti-woman, anti-progress.
मेरे सामने पर्सनल इंटेग्रिटी का सवाल है, मेरी अपनी नैतिकता क्या है? मैंने 55 मिनट सुप्रीम कोर्ट के फैसले को डिफेंड किया है लोकसभा में.
So when today the Congress party and Rahul Gandhi talks about free, fair society for women, where women have their rights and women empowerment, and the Congress party wants to pitch itself as a party which brought the women's reservation bill and got it passed and takes pot shots at the BJP. The BJP in turn has taken a pot shot at the Congress, reminding them of the famous Shahbano case. The reason is that at that point of time, the Congress's core vote bank was believed to be the minorities. Unlike today, where there are many other political parties who are also out for that pie of minority vote bank, like the Samajwadi Party, the TMC, or Owaisi's party, so on and so forth, Congress was considered to be the sole custodian of this particular vote bank, and therefore Rajiv Gandhi did not want to support any decision which he felt would antagonize the Muslim hardliners who had control over this core vote bank. What it did to his image as a liberal young leader, well, that's not much a topic of discussion anymore, but certainly that's been one of his most weak spots. And this question has often been raised by not just women, but also by many progressive men, that you had a mandate. You were young, you were talking about a new liberal India. Why did you have to buckle under this pressure? But he's not the only one. Many other political parties would have also done so. At the micro level, it happens at the state government. But let's talk about the larger picture. If you remember, another big contentious legislation at that point of time was as far as decriminalization of gay or homosexuality is concerned. The opinion was sharply divided. The UPA was in power at that point of time. The BJP decided to leave the decision to the courts, that while we understand that concerns of this particular section of the society must be addressed, it is for the courts to be there. I remember the UPA was very much in power, and there were many debates and discussions. There were meetings which were being held within the Congress party, what kind of a stand should we take. But there was a sharp division within the Congress. At that point of time also, the Congress was coveting, and still does, the minority vote bank. But by that point of time, there were many other claimants who had come up, for example, the Samajwadi Party, the TMC, Owaisi, so on and so forth, and the Congress was worried. In fact, a section of the Congress party was worried that if the UPA supports decriminalization of homosexuality, it can actually hurt the hardliners once again. I remember Ghulam Nabi Azad was a minister in the UPA, and we had asked him this question, and as expected, he did not want to get embroiled in this controversy because back then he was of course trying to protect his constituency as well. Even progressive leaders within the Congress party, for example, P. Chidambaram, were very cagey and not so open about their reactions. At the end of the day, taking a refuge under this line that let the courts decide. Finally, when decriminalization of homosexuality happened, naturally the UPA government welcomed him and called it a progressive legislation, and the Congress party also ended up supporting it. Same thing happened about triple talaq, if you remember. When the triple talaq bill was brought by the BJP, many parties opposed it on the grounds that it was intrusion into the private lives and the way of life as far as the minority or the Muslim are concerned. Of course, the Muslim hardliners, the Maulvis were against the triple talaq bill, saying this is an intrusion, and no one is there to decide. The government cannot, any political party cannot. But the Prime Minister was hell-bent on passing the triple talaq bill because he felt this is what is required for women empowerment. But when the matter came up for voting for a legislation to be cleared in Parliament, not very surprisingly, some political parties like the TMC, the Samajwadi Party, they were very cagey about supporting the triple talaq bill. There was massive hangama inside Parliament, as one expected there would be a hangama inside Parliament. Ultimately, the triple talaq bill was passed. And then it was hailed as a progressive legislation, but the jury is still out on it. If you leave it to many political parties like the Congress, they wouldn't want to be too open about it. And it's a catch-22 situation because on one hand, they certainly do want to present themselves as a liberal progressive party. But on the other hand, they also understand they run the risk of losing out on a core vote bank of which they had been a sole claimant till recently. But that's just one legislation I'm talking about. Marital rape, for example. There are many women who have talked about marital rape who say it's a reality. And there was a pressing need for that. But political parties have been very, very careful on that. The BJP certainly was, because they felt it could actually throw up needless controversy, could break family life, because there could be false cases. And very often, if there's a family or domestic battle between a husband and wife, which is quite normal, the marital rape or threat of marital rape can always be dangled to take revenge, to use the words, against men. That's yet another so-called progressive legislation that we are talking about. So triple talaq we've spoken about, the decriminalization of homosexuality, the famous Shah Bano case, the marital rape, live-in relationships, and now we're talking about same-sex marriages, on which there is still a lot of politics being played over and a sense of reticence as far as the central government is concerned. But the larger question I'm asking all of you this week is that it's all very well for political parties and governments to talk about changing the social norms, to bring about social empowerment. But can they do so because when there's real politics around the corner? Certainly when they're poll-bound states, and certainly when the big elections is not too far away. How fair is it? How fair is it then of political parties to claim that they are here to change the system and come out with progressive legislations, when at the end of the day they are also worried about the political ramifications of these decisions? So we've spoken about the spectrum. I've just taken up some few examples of history, but I'm asking you all this larger question on why political parties are very scared to bite the bullet. Because at the end of the day, it's those votes which matter. And very few instances have there been when politicians or governments have actually been able to take a tough decision. This whole tussle or fight between looking progressive and winning elections, it's a bridge which is very difficult for anyone to cross. And also two ends very difficult to meet, which is why if we're talking about same-sex marriage today, there could be other progressive legislations or what are considered to be progressive legislation will be a tough decision to make. But do watch the space for the Uniform Civil Code. In a later episode, I'm definitely going to talk about it. But that's the question I leave you with this week. Do you think it's possible for political parties in an election year, with elections not too far away, to take tough decisions which have social implications? Or is it that the ballots or the votes are only thing that matter? Thank you so much for watching.